before we get to your tips, why is it such a mess? Health officials knew once vaccines were out, they were going to need to get the shots out to people.
Right, but it seems like what happened is there just wasn't a lot of attention on this part of the rollout, the scheduling appointments and managing demand part. So Claire Hannon, who runs the Association of Immunization Managers, the people who worked for months through the fall planning the vaccine rollout in each state, told me that it just wasn't a big focus.
We did talk about this a little bit, but not a lot. The focus from CDC and the focus from Operation Warp Speed was that initial rollout. So yeah, there wasn't a lot of vision for the next phase, where we are now.
And you don't have to tell her that it's a mess. She herself could barely figure out how to get a shot for her dad in Maryland.
He's on the pre-registered waiting list for our county since January 15th, and we haven't heard one thing. And I'm like, who could possibly be ahead of him? He's 95. Like, come on.
I should say she was ultimately able to get him vaccinated in another county.
Well, that's good news. Help us understand one other piece of this puzzle, which is how does this actually work in terms of the vaccine getting to the places that are scheduling the shots?
Right, so you can kind of picture this vaccine flow chart. The federal government buys the vaccine doses and then allocates them out to states, and then states distribute them into 3 separate buckets: local public health departments, hospital systems, and sometimes pharmacies. The pharmacy program is actually expanding later this week. But now here is a key point. They don't talk to each other, which is why you might feel like you're clicking randomly from one system to another and they're all different. Local health departments often don't even know who has doses and appointments available in their local areas.
So given all this confusion, if it's your turn, if you're eligible, what is the best advice for how to figure out where to go and what to do?
The best advice at this point is to start with your state health department website, and that will hopefully tell you, first of all, who's eligible, where you are right now, and where the doses are being sent in your state. And then you have to check in each of those buckets: public health departments, hospitals, and pharmacies. It's a huge pain. You might not get appointments because there's just not enough doses to go around right now. You have to just keep trying. Make sure to have your insurance info handy in case you do get an available slot and need to put that in when you're registering. And also, sometimes, stay tuned for local tips. Like in Massachusetts, Thursday's the day to check for a slot. In Tennessee, reporter Blake Farmer says the trick is to register in every county. In Maryland, hospitals post new slots every day at 4 p.m. So, pay attention in case there's something like that where you are. And finally, if you need help, there are Facebook groups and other volunteer efforts that have sprung up to try to help folks navigate all of this.
It's stressful and exhausting just listening to you describe all the things that we should be doing. Registering in every county in some states? Reassure us this is going to get better.
Yeah, unfortunately, it seems like the trains have kind of left the station on this. Biden administration officials promised that they're looking at options for something more clear and centralized, but in all likelihood, the patchwork will continue, and the best they may be able to do is smooth out certain areas so it feels a little less slapdash. And also remember, the patchwork might not be pretty, but people are getting vaccinated. Around 32 million people have gotten first doses so far, more than 1 million shots a day on average across the country. And more vaccine is coming. Claire Hannon told me she's feeling really good, like the rollout has turned the corner. So the name of the game for everyone trying to figure all this out is patience and persistence.
Patience and persistence. All right, thank you. That's NPR's Selena Simmons-Duffin.
Thank you.
A massive search and rescue operation is underway in northern India. On Sunday, a landslide barreled
President Jesse Sharkey says it's too easy to make Lewis seem agreeable and benign. Sharkey points out that Lewis was planning on running against Emanuel before she was diagnosed with brain cancer.
This is the person who, all around Emanuel, the murder mayor, was willing to sort of take on the powerful and the establishment. She's been a voice for black workers. She's been a voice for the underdog.
Sharkey and current Vice President Stacey Davis Gates said Lewis taught them to have courage as they led the Chicago teachers' strike of 2019. Gates often pointed out during the strike that it was Lewis who laid the groundwork for much of what the union was fighting for: more nurses, social workers, and lower class sizes. Gates says one of the greatest things that Lewis did was build up others so they could take the baton.
You see all of the threads and the fruits of her labor manifesting in the way where now you don't have just the one, you have a mightier, you have a more stable, you have a chorus of voices basically shaking their hand and demanding the justice that she embodied as the leader of the union.
Not just in Chicago, but across the nation, Lewis's activism helped kick off the Red for Ed movement, giving teachers the might to demand respect and win it. And even though Lewis was ailing, she followed the last contract talks closely. Potter says Lewis demanded he bring her the agreement and went through it line by line. Lewis saw the contract as a big investment in public education and a victory for the fight she began so many years ago when she took over the Chicago Teachers Union. Potter says she was immensely proud and saw it as part of her legacy. Sarah Carr, WBEZ News.
6:28. Thanks for joining us here at WBEZ. We're Chicago's NPR news station. As you wrap up your Monday, listen to 91.5 WBEZ in the next half hour, what the Biden administration is doing to speed up the vaccine rollout. At 7 o'clock, the story of one school in Washington, D.C. that could be instrumental in developing a new testing method for COVID-19. That's coming up on Marketplace. Listen to 91.5 WBEZ on your radio, your phone, or your smart speaker, and tune in tomorrow at 11 as the second impeachment trial of Donald Trump is set to begin. It's 6:28. This is WBEZ.
Testing for COVID-19 is an industry ripe for disruption. Could better testing keep schools open, do you think? And we'll visit first grade next time on Marketplace.
Listen in tonight at 7 o'clock here on WBEZ Chicago. WBEZ is supported by the Chicago History Museum. Their online exhibitions, virtual programs, digital experiences, and educational resources offer new ways to engage with the city's history every day, even from the couch. More at chicagohistory.org. Chicago Public Media gratefully acknowledges the Stephen and Susan Baird Foundation for its generous support of WBEZ's Fund for Independent Journalism, enriching the public conversation through in-depth reporting, context, and analysis.
Taking a look at our traffic this evening. Snowy ride home for tonight. It's going to get a little more slippery as the evening goes on. Inbound Eisenhower's messy from North Avenue to the Tri-State, Manheim to Harlem, and Ashland to downtown. It is a long slog outbound on the I from Ashland to 25th. There's severe delays on electric line due to signal problems near Millennium Station. At least 5 outbound trains have been canceled. Take a look at our weather forecast for tonight. We'll see snow before midnight, a low of 7 with wind chills to 8 below. Tomorrow, sunny early, then cloudy with a good chance of snow developing overnight Tuesday into Wednesday. A high tomorrow of 17. 13 on Wednesday with cloudy skies and light snow beginning later in the morning and continuing in the afternoon. It's 12 degrees in Wilmette. It's 14 in Cicero. It's 12 degrees in Albany Park. It's 6:30.
Live from NPR News, I'm Janine Herbst. Donald Trump's legal team is calling the upcoming Senate impeachment trial of the former president political theater. As NPR's Barbara Spront reports, Trump's lawyers are urging senators to dismiss the charges.
Trump's legal team submitted a brief that claims Trump's trial, which begins on Tuesday, is unconstitutional. His lawyers argue the Senate doesn't have the authority to try a former president. a claim constitutional experts disagree with. House impeachment managers say Trump was directly responsible for the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol by a group of his supporters. They say he should be convicted and barred from holding future federal office. Trump is expected to be acquitted in his trial because Democrats would need 17 Republicans to join them in voting yes to convict Trump. In a previous vote on the constitutionality of the trial, only 5 Republicans broke with their GOP colleagues to support moving forward with the process. Barbara Sprent, NPR News, Washington.
Meanwhile, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says all parties have agreed to a structure for Trump's impeachment trial to ensure a fair and honest process.
Each side will have ample time to make their arguments. 16 hours over 2 days for the House managers, the same for the former president's counsel. If managers decide they want witnesses, there will be a vote on that, which is the option they requested in regard to witnesses.
Trump is facing a historic second impeachment trial in the Senate. Alabama Republican Senator Richard Shelby says he's retiring from his seat in 2022. The 86-year-old, who switched parties in 1994, has spent more than 3 decades in the Senate after serving 4 terms in the House. Richard Shelby is currently the top Republican on the Senate Appropriations Committee. Wall Street higher by the close. You're listening to NPR. Germany, Poland, and Sweden have kicked out Russian diplomats in response to Moscow expelling their representatives from Brussels. Terry Schultz reports that the Kremlin complained European Union envoys shouldn't have been present at rallies for jailed opposition activist Alexei Navalny.
The 3 EU governments took action in retaliation for Moscow's expulsions, which were announced by the Russian government Friday, while EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell was meeting with Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. The German, Polish, and Swedish governments said their diplomats were present at Navalny rallies in their official capacities as observers. Borrell is being criticized for not visiting the jailed Navalny while in Moscow. Some EU lawmakers had urged him to cancel the trip altogether in protest of the treatment of the opposition leader. Now some of them are calling for Borrell to resign or be fired. He'll be in Parliament for a